The rain fell softly over Brisbane that night, a quiet rhythm against the streets as lights shimmered on the river's dark skin. Sophie Lorraine held her umbrella close, her reflection flashing in puddles as she hurried down the walkway. She had stayed late at the university library, finishing a business project due the next morning. Her friends always said she worked too hard, that she needed to live a little, but Sophie was driven, focused, responsible, a girl who believed bad things happened in other cities, to other people. She texted her roommate at 8:47 p.m. "Leaving now. Be home soon." That message would be the last trace of her voice. The bus dropped her off near Riverside Park. From there, it was a short walk home, a path she had taken countless times. The park was mostly empty, the rain chasing everyone indoors. Streetlights flickered, wind rattled the leaves, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Sophie's umbrella tilted against the gusts, her shoes splashing through shallow water. Minutes later, a second figure appeared on a nearby traffic camera. A man, taller, his head down beneath a hood. His pace matched hers. For a moment, their paths overlapped under a dim streetlight before both vanished into darkness. The next morning, a jogger passing the rotunda spotted what he thought was a sleeping person curled under a broken umbrella. When he lifted the fabric, he froze. Sophie's body lay motionless on the cold concrete, her clothes soaked, her bag missing. Detective Mark Doyle arrived before dawn. He had seen plenty of murders in his 20 years, but this scene felt different, too quiet, too intimate. Sophie's phone was gone, her watch ripped from her wrist. He crouched beside her, noticing faint bruises on her arms and a small tear in her jacket. Then he saw it. A scrap of blue fabric caught on the nearby fence, drenched but distinct. Rain washed away most of the evidence. Still, Doyle knew what he was looking at, wasn't random. Someone had followed her. Someone had waited. By noon, the case had exploded on every screen in the city. Reporters gathered outside the park, students placed flowers near the bridge, and Sophie's smiling face appeared across social media. She had come from France just 6 months earlier, chasing dreams that ended on a wet stretch of concrete. Back at the precinct, Doyle replayed the footage from traffic cameras, Sophie walking beneath the streetlights, the shadow behind her growing closer. Each time he paused the video, his eyes fixed on one detail, the man's right foot dragging slightly, leaving a faint arc in the water, a limp. That night, the rain returned. Doyle sat in his car across from the park, watching the street where she had walked her final steps. He imagined her voice, the sound of her laughter fading under the storm. Somewhere out there, he thought, the man with the limp was watching too. The rain masked everything, footsteps, movement, even guilt. But Doyle could feel it in the air. This wasn't just a murder. It was the start of something darker. 3 days after Sophie's death, the city had turned restless. News anchors replayed the same footage, students gathered for candlelight vigils, and online forums buzzed with theories. Detective Doyle ignored the noise. He spent nights watching grainy surveillance clips, chasing shadows frame by frame. On one screen he caught a flash, a reflection in a window as the man with the limp passed under a streetlight. The reflection showed a partial face, a thin jaw, unshaven, young. Forensics called just after midnight. The torn blue fabric found near Sophie's body contained traces of methamphetamine. That meant street use, someone desperate, someone who lived close to the edge. Doyle ran the city's database for similar arrests. One name kept coming up. Ben Miller, 32 years old, multiple charges for drug possession, theft, and assault. Recently evicted from a halfway house near the river. They found him 2 days later in a broken-down hostel, eyes sunken, hands trembling. Doyle entered the room and saw a backpack on the bed. Inside, Sophie's phone charger and a burned piece of paper with her name barely visible. "Where were you Friday night?" Doyle asked. Ben's eyes darted. "Around near the park." "Did you see her?" He hesitated. "She dropped something. I tried to talk to her. She screamed. I didn't mean to hurt her." The words fell out like broken glass. Doyle stared at him, searching for sincerity, but all he saw was fear and confusion. It didn't fit right. The scene had been too clean, too calculated for someone this lost. The press called him the Riverside Killer within hours of his arrest. The city breathed for the first time in a week, but Doyle didn't celebrate. Something about the confession didn't sit right. Ben claimed he'd acted alone, but the footage showed movement behind him. Another figure hidden by rain. During a late-night interrogation, Doyle leaned closer. "Who was with you?" Ben's jaw tightened. "You don't understand. He finds people like me, makes us do things." "Who?" Ben looked up slowly. He said his name was Hale. Doyle froze. Marcus Hale, a name buried deep in old files. Former mechanic, assault charges, disappeared years ago. And most importantly, Hale had once shared a prison cell with Ben Miller. The next morning, detectives raided an abandoned auto shop registered to Hale. Inside, they found rusted tools, cigarette butts, and a dirty mattress. On the wall hung dozens of photographs, women walking alone at night near Riverside Park. Each photo had a date. The last one was Sophie. The photos on the wall turned the case into something far bigger than anyone imagined. Every image showed a different woman, all taken within blocks of the park. Each had been watched, followed, studied. Doyle's stomach turned as he realized Sophie wasn't a random victim. She was part of a pattern. But Marcus Hale was gone. Forensics found fingerprints matching both Hale and Ben Miller on the walls and tools, proving they had worked together. In Hale's van, police uncovered a USB drive labeled Riverside. Inside were recordings, grainy clips of women being watched through bushes, filmed from across the street. One file was different. It was recorded on the night Sophie died. The timestamp matched exactly. The video began with rain. The lens shook as if held by unsteady hands. Then Sophie appeared, walking beneath her umbrella. The camera zoomed in, breathing heavy. A second voice whispered, "Now." The screen cut to black. Doyle replayed the clip a dozen times. The first voice was Hale. The second, Ben. When confronted with the footage, Ben broke down completely. He claimed Hale had forced him to follow Sophie that night, promising him drugs and money if he just scared her a little. But something had gone wrong. Hale hit her, then kept hitting her until she stopped moving. "You don't know what he's like," Ben said, crying. "He said he'd kill me next." A week later, Ben Miller was found dead in his cell. No sign of struggle, no noise during the night. He was simply gone, as if the fear had finally caught up with him. Doyle stared at the report and knew what it meant. Hale was still in Brisbane, cleaning up his mess. That evening, the city lights reflected on the water as Doyle drove past the park. Somewhere out there, a man who planned murders like puzzles was walking free, and if Hale had chosen Sophie as a target, he'd choose another. Doyle gripped the steering wheel tighter. This time, he wouldn't wait for the rain to wash away the evidence. The investigation turned into a hunt. Hale's face appeared on every news broadcast, every bus stop, every TV screen in the city. But he was always one step ahead. Tips came in from across Queensland. None real. Then, at 2:14 a.m., a call came through from a woman's voice trembling with fear. "He's here," she whispered. "Marcus Hale. Behind the docks. Please hurry." The line cut off. When police arrived, the warehouse was dark and cold. A chair stood in the center of the floor, a rope hanging loose beside it. The walls were covered in clippings about Sophie's case. Headlines, photos, handwritten notes. At the center of it all was a photo of Detective Doyle, with one word beneath it. Next. Hale wasn't hiding anymore. He was taunting him. The forensics team found fresh cigarette ash near the doorway. Doyle touched the floor. It was warm. Hale had been there within the hour. But how had he known where to find those clippings? Someone was feeding him information. The next day, Doyle discovered a leak inside the precinct. A young officer who had been selling details of the case to a local crime blog for money. When pressed, he admitted that one of the buyers went by Hale. That night, Doyle sat in his car watching rain slide down the windshield, thinking about Sophie, about Ben, and about the faceless man who had turned the city into his hunting ground. He felt something new that night. Fear. Not for himself, but for whoever Hale might find next. 3 nights later, police received a call from a convenience store owner on the city's south side. A man had come in, barefoot and shaking, asking to use the phone. When denied, he'd stared at the security camera and said, "Tell Mark Doyle I'm coming home." Then he walked out into the storm. Doyle was already moving before dispatch finished the call. Every officer was ordered on alert. Patrol cars swept the riverfront, the bridges, the back streets near the park. At 3:12 a.m., a camera caught Hale walking alone along the same path Sophie had taken. The same umbrella lay on the ground where her body once was. Police surrounded the park quietly. Doyle stepped out first, his flashlight cutting through the mist. Hale stood near the rotunda, hands open, a small smile on his face. "You took everything from me," he said. "She wasn't supposed to die. She panicked." Doyle didn't move. "It's over." Hale laughed softly. "You think this stops? You think they'll remember her name next year? You don't stop people like me. You just wait for the next rain." He reached into his coat. Officers shouted. Doyle fired once. Hale collapsed, the sound of rain swallowing the echo. The case closed quietly. The city tried to move on, but Doyle couldn't. The park was cleaned, the cameras replaced, the flowers eventually removed. Only the memory remained.